The vent whispered, "Bury him tonight." And I swear I felt the floor tilt under my hospital socks. A voice up in the duct, cool as an invoice, said, "Dose him now, once he looks brain dead. The board vote is ours." By Friday, my plastic cup collapsed in my hand. Water skittered under the bed like it wanted out more than I did. And my name is Tessa Monroe, by the way. Bookkeeper with a side hustle scrubbing offices to keep rent from chewing through my grocery money. Fresh stitches, ugly socks, paper wristband. I pressed my palms to the wall and listened, because once you hear a sentence like "bury him alive," you don't get to unhear it. The name they said was Adrian Vale. Yes, that Adrian. Robotics money school grants the billionaire folks posted about because he actually showed up, and now someone was planning to roll him into the ground while he could still feel it. I opened my door into that half-lit hallway where everything looks like a bad idea. I ran bent over holding my side because heat was already seeping through the gauze. A stairwell door slammed. A voice behind me snapped, "There she is, then." A single gunshot cracked up the concrete shaft. Not a movie echo, but the kind that lights up your spine and says, "Move." So I did, through a laundry room, behind 2 bins of towels back-pressed to a humming washer, counting my breaths and the seconds, and all the ways I was not a hero, just a black woman with a torn incision who didn't want to scream. When the footsteps faded, I didn't call 911 because a woozy girl in a hoodie at 3 a.m. ranting about a vent is how you get placed on hold. Forever I searched the one name I could trust, Marcus Reed, civil rights attorney who makes rooms go quiet without raising his voice. And I rode downtown through a dawn that felt like the sky was deciding whether we deserved it. The receptionist started with, "Ma'am, we open at 9, and I said, "Plain as a receipt, if you send me away, you own the headline when they plant Adrian Vale alive." 5 minutes later, Marcus was there. Tall, calm eyes that said 2 hours sleep, and still sharper than the rest of us, he clocked the blood. Handed me water, said, "Start at the beginning. Don't edit," so I poured it out. The whisper, the run, the gunshot. The way fear and pain can braid into a single rope and still pull you forward. He listened without cutting me once, then dialed a toxicologist, Dr. Sloan Patel, who scanned a photographed med chart and said VLX9, a paralytic that can mimic brain death if you feed just enough oxygen to trick the monitors, retired from trials for ethical reasons. Marcus found one signature on the chart, Dr. Lauren Pike. And even before he said anything, I recognized the name from the vent. He called Judge Alvarez on emergency standby. The judge asked 3 questions that stripped everything down to bone, and then said 8 words that felt like air. "I'm granting an injunction, no burial, no transfer." The paper hit a fax machine at Maple Crest Memorial, while a U.S. Marshal named Klein walked us past brass handles and lilies into a viewing room where grief usually happens off-camera. The casket lid lifted with a sound, like the building exhaling. Adrian looked waxy and gone, and that truth bent my knees, Doctor. Ethan Park slid 2 fingers to his neck, closed his eyes, counted a silence so loud it hurt. Then whispered, pulse faint, "He's here." And I let out something between a sob and a laugh, because a stranger's breath had just borrowed time from my life. Dr. Park pushed the first antidote, clear with a pale blue shimmer like a promise. And a tremor passed under Adrian's skin, a deeper inhale, a fraction of color back. Marcus squeezed my shoulder, like he was anchoring me to the floor, and said, "You pulled a man back from a grave he hadn't earned. Power doesn't fold on the first punch. You know what I mean by lunch." A grainy clip of me barefoot and bleeding hit the internet with a caption calling me unstable. My phone buzzed, a blocked text. "Stay quiet if you want to keep breathing." And I felt that old sting you get when certain people decide your face cannot be credible. Marcus watched the same clip, jaw tight, said they will turn your voice into noise if you let them. So we made it. Signal set a single camera in his office, and I told the story straight. Like a bus stop, confession. I heard them, I ran anyway. If you think I'm lying, I hope you never need someone like me to run for you. That night, the Vale Foundation Gala filled the Walters Art Museum with glass and soft music cameras, aimed at the podium, where Adrian's brother Colin was about to wrap himself in a torch. He never carried, only the screens flickered and split to a secure feed of Adrian. Upright with a heart monitor, blinking steady. Behind him, his voice clear and low, "Good evening. Apparently I'm being eulogized, but I'm not dead. I was poisoned. And I remember who ordered the dose. The room drew breath like one body." Colin tried that gentle laugh rich men use when they think reality should apologize, brother. Trauma makes us say strange things, and Adrian leaned in. Strange would be signing transfer papers before my heart had a chance to catch up. The city turned. Federal investigators moved like they'd been waiting to sprint money trails, shell accounts, a lab where VLX9 sat in the dark like a secret, dared the light. Colin went missing for 5 minutes, the way people do when they've paid for practice at it. And then we found him at a cannery out on Kent Island, where the bay smells metallic when the wind flips. Marshall Klein and a retired Navy guy named Ortiz flanked us. Ortiz watched a heat signature on a tablet and said, "If he runs to water." Colin stepped outside, thinner than his photograph, saw me and said, "You should have taken your money and shut up," and I swear to you the words didn't cut half as deep as the way he said them. Marcus announced the warrant like a courthouse door closing. Colin twitched for the weapon he thought would finish his sentence, and Ortiz put a single round into the doorframe, gun clattering, tide rolling, end of chapter. Trials are long rooms with hard benches and colder truths. I'll spare you the hours and tell you what sticks. The prosecutor drew a clean line from a Vale shell to a consulting firm, to a warehouse of banned drugs. Dr. Pike said he believed he'd titrated for compassionate end of life. And Marcus asked how many living men you have to label tissue before compassion turns into conspiracy. When I took the stand, the defense smiled like I was a child at someone else's table. "Ms. Monroe counseling for insomnia, right?" And I said yes, because it's hard to sleep when your rent rises and your back hurts, and people like your client call people like me unstable. When we say the truth out loud, the gallery laughed. Yeah, that happened. And the judge's gavel knocked it quiet. I walked the jury through the whisper and the gunshot, and the heat under my bandage, and didn't dress it up because the bare version was heavy enough. The verdict landed at blue hour, guilty on attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, obstruction. Judge Alvarez read, 34 years with 24 before parole, and the room exhaled like tide pulling off stone. I slept for the first time without waking to listen for footsteps. A week later, an older woman asked to meet near Patterson Park. Her name was Ruth Delgado, risk auditor. Back when Adrian was inheriting problems and calling them opportunities, she slid a folder that warmed the air around it. Zip codes in the Mississippi Delta, the Alabama Black Belt memos from clinics funded by foundations with clean names where families were offered supplements to measure neuroresponses. BLX9 wasn't a one-off. It was a lineage polished with donations, and I watched Adrian read those pages like an obituary for a name he'd thought he could save. He didn't flinch. He resigned from the boards that still wanted the myth and bankrolled a fund that doesn't care about your title. If you want to tell the truth, we went to one of those towns first, without cameras, chairs in a circle in a school gym. A promise to protect names. Grown men cried and didn't apologize. We planted live oaks along a dirt road because statues stand still and trees grow. I wish I could give you a tidy bow. The machine doesn't stop. It changes uniforms. A former executive tried floating a story that Adrian staged it for sympathy. We answered with timelines, records, chain of custody forms that did not blink. The lie collapsed under its own weight. But I won't pretend the noise is gone because noise is its own strategy. So here's the part I carry like a small, heavy stone. A stranger on a gurney drew a deeper breath because a woman nobody expected anything from didn't shut up. A text told me to stay quiet if I wanted to keep breathing, and I learned quiet is often the thing that kills us. Power built on silence will always fear the first true word. Say yours, tell me where you land on justice here. Prison, restitution, both something we haven't invented yet. Tell me who gets believed first in your world, and who has to bring a notarized miracle. If you've worked in hospitals, law, or finance, what detail rang true, and what did I miss? Drop your city and time and give me that one sentence you would whisper into the vent if you thought nobody could hear you.